Imagine this. You're standing in the middle of a crowded street. People rushing by on both sides. Voices overlapping. Screens flashing. Notifications buzzing in your pocket. Everyone seems to be going somewhere. And yet, inside, you feel like you're nowhere. And then someone walks up to you, places a small, old-fashioned key in the palm of your hand, and whispers, "This is the key to your freedom." But here's the twist. The lock isn't out there in the world. It's inside you. And most people never open it. Today, I want to tell you what that key really is, and why the moment you use it, your life will never be the same. We live in a time where the noise is constant. Everybody has an opinion about who you should be, what you should do, what success should look like. We scroll, we compare. We worry about being liked, about not being rejected. And slowly, without noticing, we hand over the steering wheel of our lives to everyone but ourselves. But more than 2,500 years ago, the Buddha pointed to a different path, a path that doesn't require you to fight with the noise, but to rise above it. A path that shows you how to live free from the weight of others' expectations, the fear of rejection, and the chaos of the outside world. Here's what most people get wrong. They think freedom is about changing your circumstances. A better job, a different partner, more money, moving to a quieter place. And sure, those things might help for a moment. But they're like rearranging the furniture in a house that's still on fire. Real freedom, the kind that no one can take from you, comes from within. It's the ability to sit quietly with yourself and know you're enough. It's choosing not to be ruled by the fear of. It's having the strength to say no when something threatens your peace. And here's the beautiful irony. The moment you stop chasing approval, you start living a life worth approving of. Think about it. Have you ever been at a party, trying to fit in, laughing at jokes you didn't find funny, saying yes when you wanted to say no, just to avoid standing out? That moment isn't you living. It's you performing. Now imagine being at that same party, but this time you're grounded in who you are. You smile when you want to. You speak when you feel moved to. And you're completely okay if not everyone gets you. That's the freedom we're talking about. And it's not arrogance, it's alignment. But here's the challenge. The world won't stop shouting. The opinions, the pressure, the noise, it's not going away. So how do you rise above it without closing your heart to the world? That's exactly what we're about to explore. The first step to unlocking that inner door, and it's probably the last thing you expect. 1. Acceptance of impermanence and the changing nature of everything. Let me tell you about a friend of mine, Daniel. A few years ago, Daniel had what most people would call a perfect life. A good job, a comfortable home, a marriage that looked solid from the outside. He believed, like so many of us do, that if he just worked hard and made the right choices, life would stay steady. But then, everything changed. His company downsized. His marriage ended. And within a few months, the life he'd been building for over a decade was gone. He told me once, "It felt like standing in the middle of a storm, watching pieces of my world get ripped away. I kept thinking, this isn't supposed to happen. Things weren't supposed to change." That's the thing. We're taught to hold on to jobs, to relationships, to routines, as if they'll last forever. But the truth? Nothing does. The Buddha called this impermanence. Everything is in motion. Every moment is passing. And the harder we grip, the more it hurts when life inevitably shifts. I asked Daniel, when you think back now, was it the change itself that hurt the most, or your resistance to it? He paused, then said, honestly, it was fighting reality. That's what broke me. See, acceptance doesn't mean you have to like what's happening. It means you stop exhausting yourself by arguing with the truth. It's like standing in a river. You can waste your strength trying to push the water back, or you can let it flow and find your footing in the current. For Daniel, the turning point came when he stopped asking, how do I get my old life back? And started asking, what can I learn from what's here now? That shift didn't fix everything overnight, but it gave him something far more valuable: peace. And here's the paradox: once he stopped clinging to the life that was gone, space opened for a new life to take shape. New work, new friendships, a deeper sense of self-worth that wasn't tied to titles or status. So maybe the question for you is this: what in your life are you gripping so tightly that it's actually keeping you stuck? And if you could loosen that grip even just a little, what space might open up? Because change will come, whether we invite it or not. The seasons will turn. People will come and go. Your own thoughts and feelings will rise and fall like waves. You can fight it, or you can flow with it. Daniel's story isn't just his. It's mine. It's yours. It's all of ours. And if you're listening right now thinking, yeah, I've been holding on too hard, you're not alone. In fact, if this part of the message is speaking to you, drop the letter A in the comments. Not for me, for you, as a quiet reminder that acceptance isn't giving up. It's stepping into the truth and finding your power there. 2. Developing compassion for yourself. I want you to meet Sarah. From the outside, she looked like the kind of person who had it all figured out. Always helping others. Always smiling. Always the one people turned to when they needed advice. But what nobody saw was how she spoke to herself when she was alone. Every little mistake, she'd replay it in her head 100 times. Every flaw, she'd magnify it until it felt unbearable. It's strange, isn't it? We can be so gentle with others, and yet so harsh with ourselves. One day, after a particularly rough week at work, Sarah broke down. She told me, if someone I loved made the same mistakes I made, I'd comfort them. I'd tell them it's okay. But when it's me, I tear myself apart. That's when I shared with her a teaching from the Buddha. You yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Think about that for a second. You, yes, you, deserve the same kindness you so freely give to others. Self-compassion isn't about making excuses for yourself. It's about acknowledging that you're human, that you will stumble, that imperfection is part of the design. For Sarah, the first step was noticing the voice in her head. Every time she caught herself saying, "I'm so stupid," or "I can't do anything right," she'd pause and replace it with, "I'm learning," or "It's okay to make mistakes." It felt awkward at first, like trying to speak a language she didn't believe she could understand. But slowly, the tone in her mind began to soften. And here's the thing: once she stopped attacking herself, she found it easier to grow. Because when you're not wasting all your energy beating yourself down, you can actually focus on becoming who you want to be. You see, compassion for yourself isn't weakness, it's fuel. It gives you the resilience to face challenges without crumbling. It allows you to apologize and make amends without drowning in shame. It makes you someone you can trust because you know you won't abandon yourself when things get hard. So maybe this is your question today. If you spoke to yourself the way you speak to your best friend, how would your life change? If you could offer yourself even 10% of the patience you give others, what would that feel like? Sarah once told me that the turning point wasn't some big life event. It was the morning she spilled coffee all over her shirt before an important meeting, and instead of cursing herself, she laughed, grabbed a clean shirt, and moved on. A tiny moment, but for her, it was freedom. If this part of the message speaks to you, type the letter C in the comments. Not for me, for you. As a quiet promise to yourself that compassion starts here, and it starts with you. 3. Don't compare yourself to others. I want to tell you about Mark. Mark was the kind of guy who seemed fine. Good job. Decent house. A few close friends. But every night, after scrolling through his phone, he felt this heaviness. Not because of what he had, but because of what he thought he was missing. He'd see friends posting pictures of vacations in Greece, buying new cars, celebrating promotions. And there he was, sitting on the couch, wondering, why am I not there yet? What's wrong with me? Maybe you've felt that too. That little knot in your stomach when someone else's life looks shinier than yours. That quiet voice saying, I'm falling behind. The Buddha taught that envy is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. Comparison works the same way. It doesn't just drain your happiness, it blinds you to what's already good in your own life. Here's the tricky part. We often compare our behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. Mark didn't see the credit card debt behind that luxury vacation. He didn't see the sleepless nights that came with that promotion. He didn't see the moments of loneliness hiding behind that perfect Instagram smile. The turning point for him came during a walk with his neighbor, an older man named Paul. Paul had lived a long, quiet life. No big titles, no flashy trips. Yet he seemed content. Mark asked him, "Don't you ever wish you had more?" Paul smiled and said, "I already have enough. The trick isn't to chase more, it's to want less." That hit him hard, because for the first time, he realized life isn't a race. There's no universal scoreboard. And when you stop running in someone else's lane, you finally have the space to enjoy your own. If you're constantly looking sideways, you can't see the path right in front of you. And sometimes that path is already leading you somewhere beautiful. You just haven't noticed because you're too busy checking who's ahead. Mark started small. Each time he felt jealousy creeping in, he'd say, "May they be happy." It felt strange at first, like he was giving away some secret advantage. But here's what happened. Instead of jealousy eating at him, those words started planting seeds of peace. Because wishing others well doesn't take anything away from you. It frees you from the prison of comparison. So maybe this week, when you catch yourself comparing, pause. Ask yourself, am I seeing the full picture, or just the parts they want me to see? And then gently turn your focus back to your own life, the people who love you, the progress you've made, the quiet wins that nobody else sees. If you're ready to step out of the comparison trap, drop the number 3 in the comments, not as a random digit, but as a reminder. 3 steps forward in your own life matter more than 100 in someone else's. Because at the end of the day, the only person you need to be better than is the person you were yesterday. 4. Stop seeking validation from others. I want you to imagine Sarah. She was talented, kind, smart, But every decision she made, from the clothes she wore to the career path she chose, came with one question in the back of her mind. Will they approve of me? It's exhausting, isn't it? Living your life as if it's a performance, waiting for applause that might never come. Sarah grew up chasing gold stars, literally. In school, she'd get a sticker on her homework and feel like she mattered. At work, she'd wait for her boss to notice her effort before she could feel proud. And on social media, every like felt like oxygen. But here's the problem. When your sense of worth depends on other people's approval, you hand them the keys to your happiness. And the truth? People's opinions are as changeable as the wind. One day, Sarah came across a Buddhist teaching. Don't seek the world's validation, because the world itself is not stable. That stopped her. She realized she was building her house on sand, always patching, adjusting, repainting, but never feeling at home. The turning point came one Friday night. She was supposed to go to a party, the kind where everyone dressed to impress. But she was exhausted. She wanted a quiet night in, reading. Her mind went to war with itself. If I don't go, will they think I'm boring? Will they stop inviting me? And then a softer thought. What if I just did what I wanted tonight? She stayed home. And here's the surprising thing. The world didn't end. Nobody staged an intervention about her social life. She woke up the next morning, lighter, because for the first time in years, she'd made a choice based on her own joy, not someone else's approval. From there, Sarah started practicing a new kind of habit. Whenever she caught herself thinking, "What will they think of me?" she replaced it with, "What do I think of me?" She learned that confidence doesn't come from being liked by everyone. It comes from being honest with yourself. The Buddha taught that true freedom is not about controlling the world, but about releasing the world's hold on you. And when you no longer depend on applause, you're free to live in alignment with your own values. Think about it. Have you ever made a decision just to avoid judgment? Have you ever said yes when you meant no because you feared disappointing someone? That's not peace. That's a quiet kind of prison. So maybe this week, you can try Sarah's experiment. Do one small thing, just for yourself, even if no one else understands it. Wear the shirt you love, even if it's not in style. Take the day off without posting a single picture about it. Say no without explaining why. And if you feel a little resistance, that's okay. Growth often feels uncomfortable. But each time you choose your own voice over the crowd's, you plant a seed of inner confidence. If you're ready to take back your happiness from the hands of others, drop the letter V in the comments, a reminder that validation starts within. Because at the end of the day, the world's applause fades, but the sound of your own soul saying, "This is right for me," that echo lasts a lifetime. 5. Don't sacrifice your inner peace to please others. I want to tell you about Michael. Michael was the yes guy. If you asked him for help moving, he'd say yes. Needed someone to take the extra shift at work? Yes. Wanted to vent for hours at 1 a.m.? Yes. From the outside, he seemed like the nicest person in the room, always smiling, always agreeable. But inside, it was a storm. Because every yes he gave to someone else was a no to himself, no to rest, no to his own priorities, no to his own peace. One day, after agreeing to help a colleague with a project that wasn't even his responsibility, Michael came home and just sat in the dark. His chest felt heavy. His mind was racing. And for the first time, he asked himself, why do I keep doing this? Why do I keep betraying my own peace for the comfort of others? It's a question worth asking, isn't it? Many of us are taught that kindness means putting everyone else first, that if you love people, you should bend yourself in every direction to make them happy. But here's the truth, and it's not always easy to hear. If you constantly sacrifice your own peace to please others, you'll end up with nothing left to give. Buddhist wisdom says, you can't pour tea from an empty cup. Your inner peace is that cup. When it's full, you can offer warmth and comfort to the people you love. But when it's drained dry, even your kindness turns into resentment. Michael learned this the hard way. One Saturday, a friend asked him to help set up for an event. Normally, he would have said yes, without hesitation. But this time, he paused. He checked in with himself. He realized he was exhausted from a full week. And what he truly needed was a quiet morning with a book and a cup of coffee. So, for the first time in years, he said, "I'm sorry, I can't today." And you know what? The sky didn't fall. His friend found someone else to help. The event still happened. And Michael? He spent that morning recharging, feeling calmer, lighter, more himself. That's the thing. Protecting your inner peace isn't selfish, it's self-respect. The Buddha taught that peace begins within, and once you lose it, no amount of external approval can replace it. So, here's a gentle challenge for you. This week, notice when you're about to say yes, out of guilt or fear of disappointing someone. Take a breath. Ask yourself, will this decision protect or disturb my inner peace? If it disturbs it, you have permission to say no, with kindness, but with firmness. Because every time you protect your peace, you strengthen your ability to live with clarity and compassion. And I'm curious, have you ever said yes when you knew deep down it should have been a no? What happened after? If you feel comfortable, share your story in the comments with the number 5, a small reminder of today's lesson. Remember, you can love people deeply without losing yourself in the process. Your peace is your home. Don't hand over the keys. 6. Don't let rejection break you. Let me introduce you to Sarah. She was a young artist who poured her heart into her work. For months, she prepared her portfolio, hoping to get accepted into a prestigious gallery. She imagined the email that would say, "Congratulations, we'd love to feature your art." Instead, she got a short, cold reply. "We're not interested at this time." At first, it felt like her chest was caving in. That tiny sentence somehow made her entire self-worth feel smaller. And maybe you know that feeling. The job you didn't get, the relationship that ended before you were ready, the friend who stopped calling. Rejection can feel personal, like the world is saying, "You're not enough." But here's the thing, and this is something Buddhist wisdom has helped me understand. Rejection is not a final verdict on who you are. It's simply a redirection. Think about it. The seed doesn't sprout the first day it's planted. It needs the right soil, the right season, the right light. If someone says no to you, it might just mean you're not in the right soil yet, not that you'll never grow. Sarah almost stopped painting after that email. But then she remembered something her grandmother used to say. The bamboo bends in the storm, but it doesn't break. So instead of quitting, she decided to bend. She looked for smaller, local galleries. She posted her work online. She kept creating, not for approval, but because it was who she was. 6 months later, a well-known art blogger stumbled upon her paintings on Instagram. Within weeks, she was invited to display her work at a show bigger than the one that first rejected her. And here's the lesson. The no that you hear today might be the very thing that clears the path for a bigger yes tomorrow. Buddhism teaches impermanence, that nothing is fixed, not even failure. A rejection today doesn't mean rejection forever. So when you face that moment when the email says no, when the person walks away, when the door shuts in your face, try asking yourself, what can this teach me? Where can this redirect me? Because sometimes the detour is the real road. If you've ever experienced a rejection that, looking back, turned out to be a blessing, I'd love to hear it. Drop the number 6 the comments so we can recognize the strength it took for you to keep going. Remember this. You are not defined by who says yes to you. You are defined by the courage you carry when they say no. Life will give you many doors. Some will close, but your journey is not about standing in front of the one that's shut. It's about walking down the hallway until you find the one that's meant for you. So keep walking, keep bending, keep going. 7. You can only control yourself. Let me tell you about Michael. For years, he carried the weight of everyone else's choices on his shoulders. If a coworker missed a deadline, he felt it was his job to fix it. If a friend was upset, he stayed up all night trying to make them feel better. If his family argued, he became the peacekeeper, even if it meant sacrificing his own peace. Sound familiar? It's exhausting, isn't it? Trying to control every detail, every outcome, every person, as if the entire world is a puzzle and you're the only one holding the missing piece. But here's the truth. And it's a truth that Buddhist philosophy reminds us of over and over. You can't control the waves. You can only control how you surf them. Think about it. You can't decide how someone speaks to you, but you can choose how you respond. You can't force a friend to understand your feelings, but you can choose whether you keep explaining or simply step back. You can't stop life from throwing storms at you, but you can decide whether to stand shivering in the rain or grab an umbrella and keep walking. Michael's turning point came when he realized something simple, but life-changing. His circle of control was much smaller than he thought. And that wasn't bad news. It was freeing. He made a list one night. On the left, things he could control. His words, his actions, his focus, his time. On the right, things he couldn't: the past, other people's opinions, the weather, traffic, someone else's mood. Seeing it on paper was like taking a deep breath for the first time in years, because he understood he was only truly responsible for the left side of the list. And if he poured his energy there, he'd finally have the space to live his own life, not everyone else's try. Buddhism teaches that suffering comes from clinging. Clinging to control, to expectations, to the idea that life should unfold a certain way. But when you release the grip, when you accept that some rivers will flow without your permission, you stop fighting the current. And suddenly, you have energy for what actually matters. So, let me ask you, where are you wasting energy trying to control something or someone that's outside your reach? And what would happen if, just for today, you let it go? Michael's relationships changed when he shifted his focus inward. He wasn't cold or detached. He was centered. He learned to be the calm in his own life first. And strangely, that calm started to ripple outward. If this hits home for you, type the number 7 the comments. Not just so I know you're here, but so you can remind yourself and others that peace starts in the only place you can truly reach, within yourself. At the end of the day, you are the center of your life's map. You choose the direction. You set the pace. You decide when to walk and when to rest. You can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. And that's enough. Everyone is busy with their own life. There's a story about Sarah I want to share with you. For years, Sarah lived with this constant knot in her stomach, worried about what other people thought of her. She'd replay conversations in her head. Did I say something stupid? Did they notice my mistake? Are they judging me right now? Every time she walked into a room, she felt like a spotlight was following her. Every action, every word, she imagined people were taking notes, ready to pass judgment. But one day, something happened that flipped her perspective. She was at a coffee shop, quietly watching the people around her. A businessman was tapping furiously on his laptop. A mother was trying to calm her crying baby. Two friends were laughing over a private joke. And it hit her. Nobody was looking at her. Nobody was analyzing her every move. Why? Because they were all caught up in their own worlds, just like she was in hers. That's when Sarah realized the truth. A truth I think so many of us forget. Most people are too busy with their own lives, their own worries, their own deadlines, to spend more than a fleeting second thinking about us. Sure, sometimes people notice. Sometimes they have opinions. But here's the thing. Those opinions fade as quickly as they come. Because the moment you leave, their mind snaps back to their problems, their to-do list, their insecurities. Think about it. How much of your day is spent replaying someone else's mistakes or judging every detail about their life? Almost none, right? Then why do we believe others are doing it to us all the time? Buddhist wisdom teaches that much of our suffering comes from illusions, and one of the biggest illusions is this idea that we're constantly under the microscope. But in reality, each person carries a private universe of thoughts, fears, and dreams that you will never see. When Sarah let go of this belief, something amazing happened. She walked into rooms without that knot in her stomach. She laughed without overanalyzing how it sounded. She spoke up without fear of being picked apart, because she knew everyone else was busy starring in the movie of their life, and she was finally free to live hers. So I want to ask you, what would you do differently if you truly believed that nobody was obsessing over your every move? Would you wear that outfit you've been hesitant about? Would you speak your mind in that meeting? Would you finally post that video you've been afraid to share? If this clicks with you, drop the letter B in the comments. Let it stand for busy as a quiet reminder that the world is too busy to judge you as much as you think. At the end of the day, life is too short to be the prisoner of imagined opinions. People will come and go. Their attention will flicker in and out. But your time, your energy, that's yours to protect. Everyone else is busy living their life. It's time you start fully living yours. 9. Loneliness is not to be feared. Let me tell you about Michael. For most of his life, Michael hated being alone. Friday nights, with no plans, felt like failure. If nobody texted him back, he'd scroll endlessly, chasing distraction just to avoid the silence. And when the silence finally caught up with him, it was heavy. He thought it meant something was wrong with him. That being alone was proof he wasn't lovable, wasn't enough. But one winter, life forced his hand. His best friends moved away. His relationship ended. Work slowed down. And for the first time in years, Michael had no choice but to sit in the stillness. At first, it was unbearable. He could hear every anxious thought echo louder than ever. But here's the thing. With time, something shifted. In that quiet, he started to notice the sound of rain against his window, the way the morning light hit the kitchen table. He cooked meals slowly, not because anyone was coming over, but because he wanted to taste every bite. And that's when Michael realized he wasn't lonely. He was alone. And those are two very different things. Loneliness is a craving for connection, but being alone, that can be a sanctuary if you let it. It's the space where you meet yourself, where you can hear your own voice without the noise of the world drowning it out. Buddhist wisdom says, if you are at peace, when alone, you are truly at peace. It's not about pushing people away. It's about no longer needing someone else to fill the silence for you. When you stop fearing solitude, you start choosing it even in small moments. You read without checking your phone every few minutes. You take a walk just to feel the wind on your face. You breathe, and it feels like enough. And here's the beautiful irony. Once you make peace with being alone, the connections you build with others become richer. Why? Because they're no longer about filling a void. They're about genuine sharing, not desperate clinging. So I'll ask you, when was the last time you sat in silence, not because you had to, but because you wanted to? If this speaks to you, drop the number 9-inch, the comments. Let it be our quiet nod to each other that we understand the strength in solitude. Michael's life didn't stay quiet forever. Friends came back into the picture. Love found its way to him again. But here's what changed. He never lost the stillness he found in those months alone. It became the foundation under his feet. And maybe that's the real lesson. Being comfortable in your own company is not loneliness. It's freedom. Everyone's afraid of empty rooms. Until they learn the truth, the most peaceful conversations you'll ever have might just be the ones you have with yourself. 10. Finding happiness from within. Let me share with you the story of Anna. For years, Anna's happiness lived outside of her. It was in the smile of her partner, in the praise from her boss, in the approval of her friends. If they were proud of her, she felt worthy. If they were distant, she felt invisible. And she didn't even realize it until one day life pulled those things away all at once. Her relationship ended. Her best friend moved to another state. The project at work she'd poured her soul into, it was quietly reassigned to someone else. And just like that, the walls she leaned on crumbled. She was left with nothing to measure her worth against. At first, it felt like drowning. The kind of silence that isn't peaceful, but deafening. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, something shifted. One morning, sitting by the window with a cup of tea, she noticed the sunlight warming her hands. She smiled not because someone told a joke, not because she got good news, but simply because it felt good to be alive in that moment. That's when it hit her. Happiness wasn't something she had to chase. It wasn't something someone else could give her. It was already there, quietly waiting. Like the still water at the bottom of a pond, you just have to stop stirring it up to see your reflection. Buddhist wisdom teaches that true joy comes when you stop outsourcing your peace. It's when your sense of enough no longer depends on someone else's mood, attention, or approval. Anna started building tiny rituals that rooted her in herself. Morning walks before checking her phone. Journaling one thing she was grateful for each night. Cooking meals she loved, even when she was the only one at the table. And here's the surprising thing. Once she stopped expecting others to complete her, her relationships flourished. Because she was no longer clinging, she was sharing. Her happiness wasn't fragile anymore. Let me ask you, where does your happiness live right now? In someone's opinion of you? In the next big achievement? Or is there a quiet corner in your heart where it can rest, untouched by the world's storms? If this resonates with you, type the number 10 in the comments. A little reminder that joy is a place you can carry inside, no matter where you go. Anna didn't become some kind of monk on a mountaintop. She still has bad days. She still feels sadness, disappointment, frustration. But those emotions pass through her. Like wind through an open window, they don't knock the whole house down anymore. And maybe that's the point. Happiness from within isn't about constant euphoria. It's about having a steady flame inside you, so that even when the night comes, you're never completely in the dark. You are already enough. You don't need someone else's applause to prove it. The journey isn't about becoming whole. It's about remembering you already are. 11. Prioritizing inner growth over seeking external validation. I want to tell you about Daniel. Daniel had a gift. He could make people admire him without even trying, or so it seemed. Fancy job title, expensive suits, a social media feed full of pictures that screamed, "I've made it." But here's the thing no one saw. Every single choice he made was calculated to impress. If a friend bought a new car, Daniel suddenly needed one better. If a coworker got praised, Daniel stayed late for weeks to win the next compliment. On the outside, he was winning. Inside, he was exhausted. Because chasing approval is like drinking salt water. The more you consume, the thirstier you become. One night, sitting alone in his perfectly staged apartment, Daniel realized something. He didn't even know what he actually wanted anymore. Every goal, every milestone, every success, it was all borrowed from someone else's idea of worth. That's when the question hit him like a bell in a silent temple. What if I stopped performing and started becoming? Buddhist wisdom says the greatest journey you will ever take is inward, not to escape the world, but to anchor yourself so deeply in who you are that no applause, no criticism, no passing trend can shake you. Daniel began small. He asked himself in the morning, what would make today feel meaningful to me? Not what will look impressive to others. He started learning things that didn't fit neatly on a resume. He gave himself permission to be unseen and still be proud. And here's the beautiful part. Once he stopped clawing for approval, his energy shifted. People still noticed him, but now it wasn't because he was trying so hard. It was because he carried a quiet confidence, the kind that doesn't need to shout. Let me ask you, if no one could ever praise you again, if no one could like your post or applaud your achievements, would you still choose the same goals? Would you still walk the same path? If this stirs something in you, drop the number 11 in. In the comments, a little signal to yourself that you're ready to invest more in who you are than in how you're seen. Because here's the truth. Chasing recognition is a sprint. It's fast, thrilling, and leaves you breathless. But prioritizing inner growth, that's a marathon. It's slower, steadier, and takes you somewhere worth arriving. Daniel's life didn't suddenly become perfect. But now, when he lies down at night, he isn't calculating how he measured up against the world that day. He's simply asking, did I live in alignment with myself? And most nights, the answer is yes. That's the path that lasts. Not the fleeting buzz of someone else's approval, but the quiet, unshakable joy of becoming exactly who you were meant to be. Conclusion. There's a truth I wish someone had told me earlier in life, that the greatest freedom you'll ever feel doesn't come when the world finally accepts you. It comes when you finally accept yourself. Think about it. When you stop bending your spirit just to fit into someone else's expectations, when you stop measuring your worth in likes, applause, or nods of approval, you create space. Space for your real self, to breathe, to grow, to take root. It's a bit like tending a garden. You can keep chasing after wildflowers in other people's fields, or you can plant seeds in your own soil and watch something far deeper take shape. Because when the roots are strong, the storms don't scare you anymore. I've seen this in friends who once lived for recognition. At first, they feared stepping back, afraid the world would forget them. But then they discovered something astonishing. The less they tried to prove themselves, the more authentic their presence became. People didn't connect with them because of their titles or trophies. They connected because of the quiet strength in their eyes. Buddhist teachings say, when you know yourself, you are never alone. When you master yourself, you are never afraid. That mastery isn't about control in the hard, rigid sense. It's about cultivating peace so deeply inside you that life's noise can't shake it. And that's why focusing on nurturing yourself is not selfish. It's the most generous thing you can do. Because a person who is whole inside radiates stability, compassion, and clarity to everyone around them. They stop being a mirror for the world's chaos and start being a lighthouse in its storms. Now, let me ask you something personal. When was the last time you gave yourself permission to grow without asking for anyone's blessing? To follow a path that made sense to your heart, even if no one else understood? If someone you love comes to mind, someone who's been trapped in the cycle of needing to be seen, maybe send them this video. Not to tell them what to do, but to remind them there's another way to live. Because here's the secret. When you commit to nurturing yourself first, you're not just choosing peace. You're building a kind of freedom that can't be taken from you. It's the kind that doesn't fade when the applause dies, and doesn't shatter when criticism comes. And maybe, just maybe, this is how true power is born, not from standing above others, but from standing fully within yourself. So tonight, before you sleep, I hope you'll ask yourself one question. What's one small thing I can do tomorrow to water my own roots? That answer might just change everything.